Hello, it is March 10th. It's a Friday. Trying to get these done on Fridays. As you can probably hear, I am still sick. Um, I feel like the past couple days have been like positive, like good trajectory for recovery. Um, but yeah, my sinuses are an absolute mess right now, so really hard to breathe. Um, as I notice even at work as I'm talking and on meetings and stuff, like I just did right now, I have to stop to breathe through my mouth or else I'm gonna pass out. So that's been really challenging. But I feel like I said, I feel like I'm kind of starting the recovery phase right now. So this week has just been an absolute disaster in terms of productivity and stuff because I would love to be able to come onto these and record something and be like, here's all the cool shit that I did and here's why I feel so productive. Like, I mean, I get a lot of enjoyment out of being productive. So kind of sucks right now. So yeah, this let's kind of maybe recap on this week at least. So um from since the weekend and into Monday was like basically zero sleep because I couldn't breathe. And I have panic attacks when I can't breathe and I'm trying to sleep. Kind of a bizarre thing, but if I lie down and I feel like I can't breathe properly through my nose, I start to panic, which is, I think it's kind of bizarre because it's not like I can't breathe through my mouth or something, but my immediate response is like I can tell that I start to like have anxiety really bad. So that was really difficult in the beginning of the week. Monday, I basically took off work and then only called in for a couple of meetings just because I had pushed them out the week prior. And I felt terrible just like, hey, folks, I know I pushed this out, but like, let me push it out again last minute. So I was able to rest on Monday and then call in for those. Um, and even though they were pretty light, simple meetings, I still felt like just the fogginess in my head from not sleeping. So anyway, that was kind of self-inflicted, right? No one made me do that, but I felt pretty bad about not staying on track with that. Okay, that's work stuff. No one cares about the work stuff. The kind of the rest of the stuff going on for me outside of work, right? So, let's talk about Meal Coach because that's my big project that I'm working on. That's been pretty slow this week, but I have legitimately made an effort and have I don't think every single day. I think I missed one day this week, but I have been coding in Meal Coach, which is awesome. I enjoy developing it, so it was really good to be focusing on some things. So the other engineer contributing to this, he's kind of focusing on the other, what I would call like our next big piece for how we wanted to shift gears for MVP. I've kind of done my part so far for that. I'm not trying to indicate like I have nothing else that's left to do there, but until he has a couple more pieces, and because I'm doing the back end, then he can tell me what he needs and I can follow up. So I'm kind of blocked on that, I guess. Not because it's like his fault or anything like that, but just because it might be wasteful if I guess at what he wants. And I feel confident that I can very fastly, like, quickly follow up with what he'll need. So what I've been doing instead, couple things. One, I got a little bit blocked on just because it was a ridiculously big refactor that I wasn't quite mentally prepared for, but I have some authentication code and it's coupled with some user management code as well. And I wanted to treat these as like separate services, regardless of whether or not it's a microservice, but just like domain separation between these two things. But given the order that I originally created them in, there's a little bit of like they were never properly separated, and it was kind of an afterthought to be like, oh shit, like I think I want to break these apart. So when I wanted to go add some functionality, I realized that I want to add functionality to the user service or like that domain, and it was kind of like it's embedded in the other domain that's authentication, and the pieces that I'm looking at doing have nothing to do with authentication. So um, it was kind of like a bit of a pulling on this on this thread and unwinding it, and I was like, man, like I have all of this code. It's not that the code is like wrong per se, but I just have to move it. And the moving part is a little bit complex. I'm used to doing this kind of stuff, but it's a little bit complex only because I put a lot of test coverage in like specifically unit test coverage. I'll explain this a little bit more around the authentication pieces. And that was because I finally had gotten to a point where the authentication flows were working as I liked. So I don't always unit test things heavily until I feel like they're pretty solid. But I mean, there's going to be cases where I almost do a bit of like test-driven development (TDD), right, where I'm trying to chip away at something, like maybe I'm trying to parse something and I have a bunch of scenarios. I might do TDD for that. But for this particular case, it was a lot of complex code and it interacts with an external service for authentication. So I needed to be able to actually try it all out manually, get it all working, go through these scenarios. And once it functioned, I was like, okay, cool. Let me unit test the shit out of all of this code so that I can make sure that the pieces that I have in here are actually doing what I expect. And then this way I can actually, force exceptions to be thrown in certain spots and see like if a user is partially created, what happens, right? I can actually write code to handle that. So that's great. But the problem with writing unit tests like this is that I don't have functional tests over this piece of code yet. And that's because the external service, I actually think that they provide some type of like call it like a mock, like a dummy service that you can interact with, like that kind of thing. I think they provide something like that so that it simulates things for you. If they don't, I believe I read that they do, but if they don't, then I could write, I could use mocked objects and kind of do it even in a functional test. I don't like doing that. I feel like with functional tests you want real things. But anyway, I can't use an actual real thing in this case because I would be mutating an external service that is I don't have like a test variation of it. So anyway, the functional tests are lacking there. It's heavily unit tested, but now I need to start pulling code out of this class. Um, it's not that the code's getting deleted, it's just getting moved. And because it's getting moved, it means that all of the mocks and things that I have set up for the actual unit tests are no longer applicable in their current state. And that's because pieces of that code are getting pulled out into other classes, moved elsewhere, and then they're being replaced by like it might be like I have 20 lines of code or something that's now put behind an API somewhere else, that kind of thing. So all of the mocks that I have set up, like a lot of it doesn't make sense. Basically, every unit test over that, not every single one, but a lot of unit tests in that class are busted. So, and that's like I expect that to happen when I have refactors like this, but usually I have some functional tests to lean on as well. Because I don't think that you can like I love unit testing, but I don't think that you can just unit test everything and have full confidence all the time, especially when you refactor, that everything's going to be smooth. So anyway, that piece of work has been really like I feel like I got it to the point where I'm like, cool, it functions and I should be able to write the like update the unit test, but the problem is I need to go verify all of those scenarios that I once did once upon a time because there's no functional test. Like I'm kind of kicking my own ass here because it's like I probably should have invested a little bit more time in the functional testing for this piece. Um, but anyway, lesson learned. I'm gonna have to spend some time looking at this external service to see like how they recommend kind of testing with it. So I'll follow up with that. That work's kind of paused right now because the piece that I was trying to implement, I was telling the other engineer, I'm like, look, I kind of went down a bit of a rabbit hole here, but like I can just hack it in so like you can call an API and it's gonna work and great. So I did that on the side in like an hour versus like this multi-day refactoring thing that's still not done. But I want to go back to it and actually finish it because that work I think it's important for as we continue to build out those services. Like they're too commingled right now. It's just a mess. So anyway, that's one part. The other part is around units. um, and this is a fun topic because it seems like such a simple thing, but um, in Meal Coach, we want to be able to display nutritional information as well as ingredient amounts for recipes. We have all this information in databases, like everything's stored with high resolution. It's great. No complaints with that. When we generate meal plans, um, currently, and it's kind of based on a little bit of historical sort of how I implemented things. I wanted it such that when you generated a meal plan, I could save a data structure that would essentially have absolutely everything you need to just take and maybe re-render, like spice it up with some HTML and CSS to show a meal plan. Like you don't need any other data source. We could have our database go offline for all the other data, and as long as you had this structure, this JSON structure, then you'd have everything you need. So that meant that some of the, well, I guess it didn't have to be this way, and this is part of the issue. But what I was kind of leaning on was like, well, that means that I want to have some of the content be like ready to be displayed, and that meant that units for food and ingredient amounts needed to be user readable. And why? Well, if I put a unit ID in there, and it's going to mean that you need access to a service to be able to map the unit to whatever the true unit is, like the grams, or grams, ounces, tablespoons, that kind of stuff. If that's not actually listed as grams, tablespoons, ounces, whatever, and it's just an ID, like you can't make sense of that without the rest of the service. So originally I kind of leaned hard into like it's going to be not quite like rendered for the user, but it's in a state where you can take the data and it's user displayable. A lot of things that like I don't like about that, but part of me was like, I think that's going to be, I felt like it was going to be really helpful just to have snapshots of meal plans like that. As we move forward, we've added more so that we have more data resolution in there. And that's really helpful because what we've noticed is that we want to shift gears. The way we're displaying our current meal plans don't make a ton of sense from a user perspective. And what I mean by that is that we have like, what's a good example of this? So if we wanted to show like, here's a meal that you would be eating on a Tuesday for lunch, right? Um, we would show the nutritional information, and it would be for a serving that you would want to have, but the recipe itself could be for either one serving, and then everything just kind of makes sense, or what's more common when you're adding recipes from external sources is that a lot of recipes aren't just made to serve one. Like it's a recipe for like a dinner for a family, so it might make 6 servings or 4 servings or something. So what we were doing was like we would have the ingredients listed for the whole recipe, but then the nutritional information for only a single serving. And then we were like, well, that's wrong. Like it's misleading. So we want to show the ingredients sort of divided by however many servings you have, um, so that the ingredients you're looking at actually map to what you're about to eat. But then that's kind of ridiculous. Like we started to realize that when you're looking at the data that way, like as a user, it would be like eat 1/4 of an egg. And you're like, well, what? Like, why do I need to read this? And the reality is, if you were meal prepping and it made 4 servings, you would have used one egg. Like, you would have made your 4 servings using one egg. There's not a time where we need to show the user, like, your serving that you're about to eat only has these fractions of ingredients. It doesn't really make sense. So anyway, what I'm trying to do is make that feel better, but I'm kind of going back and fighting a little bit with this fact that I started to lose some data resolution because of this experience I was explaining, like when I wanted to make the data a little bit more user readable. Um, but anyway, I actually think that there's enough data resolution now, which is great because it was almost already there. I had to change very little in the end. I just spent a long time on it. But I think what I need to do now is have it so that when the front end would like to display this, that this is the time where it's going to take that like extreme resolution and make it user friendly. Because if something says go eat, or like the nutritional information, even, right? It's the same kind of concept. The nutritional information, I don't want to show you that it's like 37.291327 grams of protein. Like, you don't care. Like we don't need the decimals on that kind of stuff. So I need the front end to basically take that data that is like high resolution and then transform it to something that's user friendly. We have APIs for that already. I'm not confident if they're designed in a way that feels good to consume on the front end. So that's kind of the next phase. But anyway, I just realized that was a ton of me talking about a lot of details about shit. So that's what I'm going to be focusing on in particular, while the other engineer gets to a point where he's like, hey, like update these APIs so I can finish up my part. So that's Meal Coach. Like I said, I did get to work on it, but I just feel like because of this stupid sinus infection, not feeling so hot. Um, and then content creation wise, so I had a call with Jamal. It was good, but I haven't gotten any more short videos, so that not like nothing's really changed there. I think he's just very very busy. And I think that he's maybe I can't speak for him. I feel like maybe he feels a little bit guilty where it's like wants to help. And we like working together, but I think he's just got a lot going on, so I don't, no blame or anything like that. Um, so I've been trying to like take the shortcut again, remix videos off YouTube. Sorry, one of the dogs is being silly down here. What are you doing? You're a funny girl. And I think something I want to try doing is it's not really my style, I guess, but I want to try not like quite like a reaction video, but I'm seeing stuff get posted on TikTok where I like strongly disagree with what people are saying, and I feel like um it's a good opportunity for me to actually talk about the things I value. And the reason I say it's not my style is because I don't want to make it look like I'm saying, hey, like this person's a friggin' idiot, like don't listen to this asshole. Like it's not my intention. Like I don't like a confrontation. I don't want to be perceived as someone who's just being an asshole to people. But um there's stuff I don't agree with, and I think it's an opportunity to kind of share some information there. So, I'm gonna try making a couple short form videos. I made one or two so far, posted them up, but I think I actually want to do like a longer form, like a reaction style. But it's not so you can just watch my face and me go, like, no one gives a shit about how I react. But I wanna basically play their content, pause it, and then speak to like, here's why I disagree. Um, Sorry, the dog is climbing on my lap and breathing in the mic. But um, yeah, I think that might be interesting content because it's some of it is going to be software engineering and other parts will be like from an engineering manager's perspective. To give you a quick example of one piece of content so far, there's someone posting saying like your like for performance reviews, basically like the reality is like you just all you need to focus on is making your manager happy. That's it, and like anything else is a lie. And I'm listening to this and I'm like, dude, like I'm not gonna say that there aren't places where the culture is so shit that like that is the way, like it's 100% politics. I am guarantee there's places like that. But what the hell do you think is gonna happen when you're teaching engineers that that's the way to go? It's ridiculous. Like it sounds like an extreme example, but I was commenting back to a friend on this saying like, okay, that's like you could go you could make a ton of money selling drugs illegally. You could do that. People have made tons of money doing that. It's true, but I'm not going to tell people to go do that. That's ridiculous. And I know like that's a example of like criminal activity and what this person was suggesting is not, but my point is like if you want to grow as a software engineer, if you want to grow, be a better software engineer. Don't just focus on making your manager happy and trying to be 100% political. Um, I think that's ridiculous. Like you're gonna think about it, right? Like so, sure, like I said, there are places where this can work, and you're gonna climb the corporate ranks or something. And then what? You're gonna be in a high paid role. Awesome for you, great. You're gonna hate it because what are you doing? Like you don't actually do anything because all you're focused on is how do I make the next person happy? Like you're probably a terrible software engineer because you're not actually doing software engineering. You're a social engineer or a politician or something. And like what? So just so that you can say like I did it, I make a lot of money? Like how about if you actually like software engineering, be a better software engineer, show results for it, and the side effect is that your manager is going to be happy. Your manager is going to be happy that they were able to empower you to do the work that you're doing and you're getting great results out of it. Like, what? So, what pisses me off about this is like you're teaching people that this is the way forward. And like I said, it might be wherever you're working, sure, but it's only going to propagate how shitty that is. So, you can already tell, like, I'm a little heated about this, but man, I try not to say the F word on these, but um, it drives me fucking nuts. Like that's not acceptable. So, yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna be making some content on this because I think that from what I've heard at least, people like some polarizing content, and it's bothering me enough that I think yeah, I might be able to speak to that a little bit more passionately. So, anyway, me making some of that coming up. Otherwise, I think I only got maybe three three videos I got to finish up for March, and all the content's created. Blogs have been a little bit slower, but honestly, past 2 weeks, right off for productivity. So I'm really hoping get full recovery by this weekend. This is already a 23-minute video. I apologize. So thanks so much for watching. Thanks for all your support, and yeah, hopefully next update I have just better shit to talk about, and it's not me rambling so much. So thanks, and see you later.